There's a baby staring at you. Not glancing, not peeking, staring, locked on, unblinking. With the kind of focused, unrelenting intensity that would be unsettling coming from an adult, but somehow from a 7-pound human who can't yet hold their own head up, feels almost profound. You wave. They keep staring. You make a face. They keep staring. You look away, look back, and they are still there, still watching, as if you are the most important thing they have ever seen in their short, brand new life. Most of us laugh it off. We make a joke, do a little dance, maybe feel vaguely judged and move on. But for the last 2 decades, a small and very determined group of developmental neuroscientists has refused to move on. They wanted to really know what is happening inside that tiny brain during those long, unblinking stares. And what they found doesn't just change how you see babies. It changes how you understand human consciousness itself. So let's follow the question, all the way down. Let's start with the theory most people land on. Babies stare because their vision is bad. Faces are simply the most high-contrast, visually interesting thing in their limited range. Makes sense. Newborns can only see clearly about 8 to 12 inches away, roughly the distance from your arms to your face when you're holding them. So of course they stare at faces. There's nothing else they can see. Clean theory, logical, tidy, and almost entirely wrong. Here's the problem. By 3 months old, a baby's visual range has expanded enough to take in practically the entire room. The ceiling, the window, the dog, the pile of laundry in the corner that you've been meaning to deal with for 4 days. They can see all of it, and they still keep choosing your face. Every single time. That is not blurry vision. That is a preference. A deliberate, consistent, neurologically driven preference for the human face, specifically your face, over every other object in the environment. So, the real question isn't can they see anything else? The question is, why do they keep choosing you? And when researchers started seriously digging into that question, the data took them somewhere nobody expected. In 2017, a research team at the University of Cambridge's BabyLink lab published a study in PNAS, one of the most prestigious scientific journals on the planet. They were measuring neural activity in both infants and adults during face-to-face interaction using a technique called functional near-infrared spectroscopy, a way of tracking brainwave patterns in real time without disturbing the interaction itself. What they were looking for was brainwave synchronization, whether 2 brains in close proximity might begin to mirror each other's activity. What they found stopped the field cold. When a baby locks eyes with you, when that stare happens, their brainwaves begin to synchronize with yours. The same frequencies, the same rhythms, firing across 2 completely separate brains simultaneously. The researchers tested every variable. Adult looks away, synchronization drops, neutral face, no eye contact, partial sync. But mutual gaze, true eye contact, produced the strongest neural coupling they had ever recorded between 2 individuals of different ages. Let that land for a moment. Your baby is not just looking at you. They are locking their developing brain onto yours, using your neural activity as a scaffold, a living template for building their own. That long, unblinking stare is how human brains teach other human brains how to be human. That is what is happening across the room when a baby catches your eye and won't let go. But here's where it gets even stranger. Because babies don't stare at everyone the same way. Researchers at Harvard Medical School ran a deceptively simple experiment. They showed 3-month-old infants 2 faces side by side, a stranger's face and their primary caregiver's face. The infants consistently looked longer at the stranger, which seems backwards, until you understand why. Cognitive scientists call it the violation of expectation response. Babies stare longer at things they haven't fully processed yet. The stranger is a puzzle novel, unread, full of unknowns. But the caregiver's face? By 3 months, a baby has already logged thousands of hours of data on that face. Every expression, every micro movement, every shift in tone between happy and tired and worried and playful. When they look at you, they're person, they're not confused, they're reading you. Research published in PubMed confirms that by 5 months, babies can distinguish between a genuine smile and a performed one. By 6 months, they are actively tracking your emotional state and using it to decide how to respond to the world around them. Developmental psychologists call this social referencing, and once you understand it, you see it everywhere. You look scared, they freeze. You look excited, they reach for the object. You look calm, they explore. Research from Rasmussen University describes a perfect everyday example. A toddler falls and looks immediately to the caregiver's face. If the caregiver looks alarmed, the child cries. If the caregiver looks calm and encouraging, the child gets back up. Same fall, completely different emotional outcome. all of it determined by reading your face in that split second. That long, unblinking stare is not admiration. It is data collection at a level of sophistication we are only beginning to measure. Your baby is building a real-time emotional map of your face and using it to calibrate their own understanding of what is safe, what is dangerous, what is worth exploring, and what should be feared. You are not just their parent. You are their nervous system's external reference point. Now I need to tell you about an experiment that was considered so ethically disturbing it sparked years of debate in developmental psychology. It's called the still face paradigm. Designed in 1975 by Dr. Edward Tronick at Harvard, the setup is elegantly simple. A mother interacts naturally with her infant, smiling, talking, responding to every cue. The baby is engaged, animated, staring up at her face with total attention, happy, connected, fully alive in the conversation. Then, on cue, the mother goes completely blank. Still face, no expression, no response, eyes open but nothing behind them. What happens next is one of the most studied sequences of infant behavior in all of developmental science. The baby notices immediately. They try to re-engage her. Big smiles, pointing, vocalizing, all the things that normally work, none of them working now. They try harder, bigger gestures, more urgent sounds. Still nothing. Within 90 seconds, most infants begin showing measurable physiological stress responses. Cortisol spikes, heart rate rises, some begin to cry. Others go flat themselves, withdrawing into a kind of emotional shutdown that mirrors the mother's blankness. When the mother re-engages, recovery is rapid, but not instant. Scientific American's coverage of Tronick's decades of research with this paradigm reveals something even more sobering. The still face response in infancy doesn't just predict distress in the moment. It predicts attachment classification at age 1 and behavioral outcomes at age 3. What Dr. Tronick concluded from 20 years of running this study is this. Babies are not passive recipients of care. They are active participants in a constant emotional conversation, and that conversation happens almost entirely through the face. The stare is communication, at its most primal, most fundamental level. Your baby is talking to you with their eyes, and they need you to talk back. There's one final layer to this, and it's the one that almost never makes it outside of academic journals. Researchers studying infant visual processing have found that babies who receive more contingent face-to-face interaction in the first 6 months, meaning interactions where their cues are noticed and responded to, show measurably greater development in the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, decision-making, emotional regulation, and complex social behavior. The architecture that runs adult cognition. Every time you hold their gaze, every time you mirror their expression, every time you respond to what you see in their eyes, you are not just bonding. You are doing construction work on the brain they will use for the rest of their life. And because this matters so much, there is something I need to say directly. If you notice a baby who doesn't stare, who consistently avoids eye contact, who doesn't track your face, who seems to look through you rather than at you, that is not a quirk to wait out. Reduced or absent gaze behavior in infancy is one of the earliest observable markers researchers associate with atypical social development. It doesn't mean something is definitively wrong. Every baby moves on their own timeline. But pediatric neuroscientists are clear on one thing. Early identification changes outcomes in ways that later intervention simply cannot replicate. The brain's plasticity in the first 2 years of life is never that high again. The window is real, and it is time-limited. So if something about the stare or the absence of it feels off to you, trust that instinct. You have been reading your child's face since the first hour they were born. You are probably the most finely calibrated instrument in the world for detecting when something has shifted. Act on that. Talk to your pediatrician. You are not being dramatic. You are being exactly the parent your child needs you to be. So, why do babies stare? Because their brain is reaching for yours. Because your face is the first map they will ever read, the one that teaches them what is safe, what is worth loving, what emotions look like, and how the world responds to them. Because 15,000 years of evolution didn't give babies those big, round, irresistible eyes by accident. Those eyes are the most sophisticated social interface ever developed by nature. And when one locks onto yours across a room, across a dinner table, across whatever ordinary moment you happen to be standing and something ancient and extraordinary is happening, they are learning how to be a person, and they chose your face to learn from. The only right response, the one your biology already knows, the one every instinct in you is already reaching for, is to stare back. Hold their gaze, mirror their expressions, respond to what you see, because in those quiet, ordinary, unblinking moments, you are building something that will last a lifetime. If this changed how you see the babies in your life, subscribe and drop a comment below. I want to know, was there a moment where a baby's stare stopped you cold? Because now you know exactly what was happening.